All right, guys, we got Asvab level 4 practice test. So on this one, the other three were 20 questions. This one has a couple more. It's more like 24. So before we get going, the nature of it again, there's 4 levels. So level 4 is the hardest. So you're looking at the hardest questions and practice tests that we have for the Asvab. If you can handle these questions, you should be good to go. What I would recommend doing is in the description has all of the questions with the multiple choice answer possibilities. I would go ahead and go through the whole test, take it yourself, then watch how we do it, and hopefully something to be learned so you can be improving your score. Also, should mention that we do have a mobile app which can help with it'll customize the videos for you. So as you're answering, it's figuring out what videos you should watch, as well as getting a lot of practice in answering questions, getting good feedback after every question. I think it's interactive, engaging, kind of fun. So I would check it out. It's free to install. Having said that, let's jump right in. Okay, so this first one has to do with patterns. Okay, so it says, what is the fifth term in the following sequence? Okay, then it goes 2, 4, 12, 48, and then some number. Okay, so this is a common one. So 2 and 4. So you kind of just start off, right? I got 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, and then the next number is 12. Okay, so I had a 4 right there. And this one's times 3. So a lot of times the patterns are like you multiply by 1 more each time. So it's starting to look like maybe that's what we got here. Okay, 12. Carry that 12 down. So I'm thinking the next one is going to be 12 times 4. Right? Because it was 2 and then 3 and then 4. 12 times 4 is 48. Looks good. Because that's the number there, 48. And then they're asking what's the next one. Okay, so almost for sure, we've now got the pattern down, right? 48 times, what do you think it is? 5? Because we have, right? 2, 3, 4, 48 times 5, which equals 240. And there we are, answer choice D. Okay, that's how we do that. And I guess I think I forgot to mention at the beginning. So as you go below all of the questions, is there will be links to all these videos. So we have a ton of shorter videos. So there's a video that focuses just on sequences and patterns, which they can be a little tricky to figure out, but there's really only like a few options. This is certainly one of them. That video will go over the other types of ones that you're likely to see. So it might be worth checking that out too. Okay, an equation question. So after completing 75% of the test, Melissa has 14 questions left. How many questions were on the test in total? Okay. So when I see, okay, so we see this number. So there's 75%. Whoops, where's my pen? 75% of the test is completed. 14 questions left. And so we'd like, when we're setting up an equation, we'd like to kind of set up like apples to apples, is the phrase. Okay, so 3/4 is completed, 1/4 is left. So 1/4 is left, 14 questions are left. How many total? Hopefully that makes sense how I did that, right? That sets it up correctly. And then if we just cross multiply, 1 times x is just x. 14 times 4 is 56. And there's our answer right there. Okay, so those can take practice as well, and seeing it done a few times, but really, as far as actual learning goes, a lot of times you can watch a video like this, watch me do it, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, that's easy. And then you get the question and it's not as clear. So actually answering, getting comfortable with the questions, getting feedback on how to do it is an important part, but really a more important part is answering the questions yourself. Getting practice answering questions like this. That's where the app is perfect, right? Because it gives you really just a ton of questions very similar to what you can see on the exam. 4 consecutive even integers total 20. What is the second integer? Okay. So when you get consecutive even integers, this is how you set it up. You go x plus 2. So this one says 4 of them, right? Plus x plus 4, and then x plus 6. So this will give us the result for finding an even integer. If it just had consecutive integers, then we would just go x plus 1 plus x plus 2. If it says even, then we got to go x plus 2, x plus 4. Okay, so we have 4 x's, right? 1, 2, 3. There's 4 of the x's, and then we've got 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 4x plus 12 equals 20, right? Okay, so from there we just subtract 12 from both sides, and we will get 4x equals 8. Sorry. Lost my train of thought there for a second. 4x equals 8. We'll divide each side by 4. X equals 2. No. Right? So you're doing pretty good if you got that far. A lot of people make the mistake of like, okay, I got through all my work. X equals 2. Answer choice A. Remember to read the question, right? Yeah, this is, level 4, so they're harder. Make you do more things. What is the second integer, right? We have 4 consecutive integers, and x equals 2 is the first one. The second integer is, even though there's markings all over the place, is this x plus 2 number, right? And so that is 4. And so we're saying that the 4 consecutive integers are going to be, right, x was 2. Those are going to be the 4, right? And if you add those up, 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20. Okay, and there you go. There's your answer. Okay, which of these is an integer? So when you're thinking about integer questions, just like for this especially, which one is an integer, is your thought process is that an integer is a whole number. Okay, so anything that's like a fraction or a decimal is not an integer. So negative 1/4, no. 1/4, no, those are both fractions. 3.5, that's a decimal. 0 is an integer. Okay, Jason puts $500 in a new savings account and receives 2% interest every month. How much is in the account after 2 months? Okay, so here's the mistake people make. They start doing it right. They go 500 times 2% interest every month, so 0.02. And 500 times 0.02 is 10. And they think, okay, so it's $10 a month, interest, 2 months, so that means $20 of interest, and then they think the answer is 520. Yeah? Okay, so don't do that, right? Because that's the wrong answer. And the reason it's wrong is, so this is what happened in month 1, was $10 of interest, right? So at the end of month 1, I now have 510 where I used to have 500, or not I, Jason, right? It's about Jason. Okay, 510, right? Now at the beginning of month 2, I'm again going to multiply it by the 2% interest, and you can see, like, without even doing the math, that this number is going to be more than 10, right? Because 500 times 0.02 is 10. 510 times 0.02 it's not going to be a lot greater, but 510 times 0.02 is going to be a little bit greater than that, and that means this one's definitely wrong. This one's definitely wrong. You probably can't tell whether it's answer choice C or D, until you do the math, right? And it ends up that 510 times 0.02 is 10.20. That would be the interest for month 2. Okay, and so then we have 10 and 10.20, right? So in total, the interest for the 2 months is going to be $20.20 added back to the 500. There's our answer, 520.20. So that's a pretty common type, hard but common type question for the Asvab. And just remembering when it's multiple months and if it's getting interest every month like that, you got to do exactly what we did here. All right, on to question 6. Player Haterz sales dropped 10% in October, but increased by 20% in November. Overall percentage change. Okay, so similar. I mean, it's different, and we'll go over what the difference is. But what you don't want to do is say, well, it went right. It went down 10, and then it went up 20 equals up 10. Easy, right? Answer choice D. At least eliminate that, because that is never going to be right. Okay, it's the same reasoning, really, is say you start with 100, okay, and 100 times 0.1 is 10, okay, so that's what it dropped by in October, okay, so 100 minus 10, so then we're down to 90, right? Okay, now when it goes up 20, it's going to be 90 times 0.20, not 100. Right? And therefore, you're going to come up with a different answer. So 90 times 0.2 is 18. Okay, so it's going to go up 18. 90 plus 18 is 108. That's your final number there. So it increased by 8 over 100, or 8%. Okay, so that's really what you want to be familiar with, is that when some numbers go down and then they go up, you don't want to just do this lazy math that ends up being incorrect, right? You got to go, and that's what you want to do. Pick up a number that's easy to work with. 100 is usually a great choice. Plug the stuff in and see what happens. Okay, so we have sometimes these carets for exponents. YouTube won't let me just write it out as an exponent. So anyway, that's what it ends up looking like. You guys know about PEMDAS? Probably heard that once upon a time in school, and then for some of us, forgot it completely. Right, so the mnemonic, the phrase is "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," if that helps you. But what it stands for is parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. And what that means, that's the order in which we solve this, not just going left to right like you would think we would. So I'm just going to write this thing out here, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So this kind of stuff definitely shows up. Definitely want to be able to do these, and to remember PEMDAS, and then probably getting a little practice at it is helpful. Okay, so the first thing is parentheses, right? So you can see we have that 2 plus 2 in parentheses. I'll scoot this guy over here. So, okay, so the rest of the stuff we don't do anything with, right? We just want to do things one boring step at a time, right? And all I did there was now 2 plus 2 became 4. Carry the rest of the stuff down. Okay. Next, exponents. 4 squared is 4 times 4. That's 16. Don't get ahead of yourself. That's how we make mistakes and get questions that we have no reason to miss. Wrong is when people start trying to do it too fast. Next, multiply, right? So then we're going to do that 3 times 4 that we can see there. Okay, 16 plus 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, there's that. Divide is next. We don't have anything to divide. Okay, and then we have add and then subtract. So now we can just go left to right, right? Because we have all this stuff, the first 3 numbers there, right? This stuff right here is all just adding, and then we'll subtract it from 5 at the end. So 16 plus 12 is 28. 28 plus 10, 38, minus 5 gives us 33. Answer B. Okay, so that's how we do that one. And just we got to remember, PEMDAS is big. You got to know what it stands for. Follow the rules. The math part, really simple. As if you didn't enjoy it enough, another one. So, you know, and I've said this in other videos before, is if we show you 2 that are, you know, really the same thing, like we do 2 PEMDAS questions here, what it means is it's going to show up at least once, maybe twice, right? And so anything where there's 2 of them, I would say that it means pay close attention and make sure you know how to do it, because it means it's more important. Okay, so PEMDAS again, right? 2 minus 8. So we're doing parentheses stuff first. In this case, that's confusing because you have an exponent within the parentheses. So really, we have to do the exponent so that we can do the stuff inside here. So we'll go 2 to the 4th, which 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay, and we'll just leave that. It's rare where you see like all this stuff that you have to do actually inside the parentheses. Usually it's a simple one like we had last time, like a simple just sort of add or whatever. Okay, so then we'll carry this guy down, make him 8, carry this down, make that 8, our little divide, 2 minus. Okay, so this is a good one though, in that it could be tempting to do this in a different way, right? It'd be tempting to just go left to right from here, where you go like 2 minus 8 is negative 6 divided by 8, and you got negative 3/4, and we do have negative 3/4 as an answer, right? But what you're really supposed to do is division first. Remember, it's PEMDAS, so the D is before the S. So 8 divided by 8 right here is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. Answer choice C. All right, so those can take some practice, but mostly it's just about remembering the rules. The actual calculations are, you know, nothing really too tough. All right, what do we got now? 2 feet of product X is directly proportional to its weight. Okay, if 2 feet weigh 40 pounds, how much does 60 inches weigh? Okay, so this is just setting up an equation. So what we want there is, so it says 2 feet weigh 40 pounds, how much does 60 inches weigh? So because they asked this question to be about inches right there, and it says it's proportional, is because of that we need to make 2 feet into inches. Okay, so hopefully we know that there's 12 inches in a foot, and so there are 24 inches in 2 feet. Okay, 24 inches and 40 pounds equals, again, it's exactly proportional, equals 60 inches, and then we don't know, this is when we get to the part we don't know, right, which is X, and that's going to be how much does 60 pounds weigh. Okay, and so once we've set that up, we're in good shape. Cross multiply these guys, and that will give us 24x. 24 times x is 24x. 40 times 60 gives us 2400. Right? 4 times 6 is 24, and just add those 2 zeros in there. And then if we divide each side by 24, so we can get x by itself, 2400 divided by 24, 100. Okay, and so of course I did that math kind of fast. You know, if I do it too fast, you need time, you just hit the pause button, right? So you have time to figure it out. But hopefully you've already tried to answer this question anyway. Anyway, 2400 divided by 24 is 100. And it gives us answer choice B. Okay, so that's how we do that one. Okay, and so this is another one. So that one was ratios, proportions, and rates. Another ratios, proportions, and rates type question. Okay, so let's see here. Miller worked out 27 times this month. It says he's fit as a fiddle. Miller does only weights, cardio, or swimming. His ratio of weights to cardio to swim is 4 to 3 to 2. How often did Miller lift weights? Okay. So let's see here. So we have 27 times working out, right? And then we have this 4 to 3 to 2 ratio. Okay. And so what you're going to do with something like this, and so within this 4 to 3 to 2 ratio, so the 4 part is weights. We'll just call that W. Okay, so that 4 represents the amount of times that he does weights. The 3 is cardio. 2 is swimming. Okay, so that's the ratio that he does that stuff. Okay, so when we're looking, and they're asking for weights. Okay, so weights are 4 divided by these 3 put together, 4, 3, and 2. So 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 9. Okay, so what that's really saying, what this thing is really saying here, is that 4/9 of the time, Miller lifts weights. And we know that he worked out 27 times this month, which is a lot. Okay, so that's how we're going to figure that out. Is 4/9 of the time times 27 equals how much of the time he worked out. Okay, and 9 over 27 can be reduced to 1 and 3. And once we've done all that, 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. 12 is our answer. Answer choice B looks like a winner. Okay, so that's complicated for sure. You know, and getting used to, and again, we're in level 4. These are some of the hardest questions on the test, these type of questions, but you want to be prepared for how to go about solving that. As I've said previously, if you want, a lot of times it's just about seeing a few more examples and then trying to do it yourself. And that's some of the other more specific videos, which we link to in the description, and then the app. Okay, and then one more ratio, proportion, rate type question. So it says St. Joseph High School has 402 people in their graduating class, twice as many females as males in the class. Gotta like those odds. How many males are there? Okay. So we have 402 total. It's kind of repetitive, but I tend to like to write these things down as I'm thinking it out. Okay, and so we want to know some number out of the 402 are male, right? And so they're telling us that 1/3 are male, okay? And so a lot of times people think that means 1/2 when they see twice as many females as males are in the class. So let's look at this for a second. So if there are 2 females and 1 male, right? Even though there's twice as many, what that means is that there's 1 male and 2 plus 1 is 3, right? So that means that 1/3 is male. Okay, so that 1/3 is actually correct, right? So if you saw it was 3 times as many females, that means you'd have 3 females, 1 male. So 1 male, 4 total people. 3 times as many would mean 1/4. It's confusing until you kind of just get used to thinking like that. All right, so if we cross multiply these guys, 3x is 402. We'll divide each side by 3, and the result is 134. All right, just 402 divided by 3. That's all you're doing there is 134. And there you go. That's answer choice C. And if you want to, kind of like check your answer there, is you just go, okay, well, I got males are 134, and then you just go, okay, 134 times 2 should be the number of females. So 134 times 2 is 268. And then if you add those two together, you get 402. So that's how you kind of back check it if you're unsure if you got the right answer or not. 12. Okay, what is the median? Okay, and so when you see this, so first of all, we need to organize this from smallest to largest, because the median is going to be the middle number. Okay, where if it was mean, if that's all they asked for was mean, which is average, then you could just add them up and not reorganize. But in this case, we got to reorganize. So let's see what we got here. -5. I'm just going to cross them off as I do them, otherwise I'll forget. -3. -2. 0. And it is important that you get the order right when you're doing these. And then we have 3. And it looks like we got 2 4s. 7. Right? There was 1 4, 2 4s, 7. Okay. All right, so now in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 numbers total. Okay, so with median is the middle number. Okay, so when the total is odd, so like if there were 5 numbers in a set, then the middle number would be the third number. But when it's even, it's not as clear what the middle number is. And so you pick the 2 that are in the middle, which in this case will be the 4th number and the 5th number. Okay, and then what you do is you take them and you divide it by 2. 0 plus 3, those are the 2 middle numbers, divided by 2 equals 1.5. Okay, and that's what you do. That's how we find median when the total is even. Okay, fun question. How many minutes are in 30,000 seconds? Okay, so this is just unit conversion. And so really all they're asking you is, okay, so I got the 30,000 seconds. And then how many seconds are in a minute? 60. Yep, and if I do that, 30,000 divided by 60, I get 500. Answer choice A. That's all you're doing there. Okay, and now we're moving on to coordinate geometry, it looks like. The following points lie on a coordinate grid, 0, 4, and 5, 3. What is the slope of the line? Okay, so I'll put these out here again. 0, 4, and 5, 3. So the formula for slope is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And yes, that is definitely something you need to memorize. You will see slope almost for sure. Okay, and so y2 is this number right here, 3. So we'll plug that guy in. Y1 is this. So there's 3 minus 4. And then x2 is that 5. And x1 is the 0. Okay. And then if we go ahead and subtract that out, 3 minus 4 is negative 1. 5 minus 0 is 5. Okay. And so that's negative 1/5, which is answer choice A. There's our slope. So to describe this a little bit further, if that x1, x2, y1, y2 thing was confusing, explain that a little better here. Give a second to erase. Okay, so what that means is, it's when you have like those coordinates, 0, 4, and 5, 3. Okay, so this is x1. This is y1. This is x2. That's y2. Yeah. Okay. So that's what those are, right? And then you have your formula of y2 minus y1 divided by x2 over x1, right? So when you take 0, 4 here, right? So 0 is x1, 4 is y1, and then when you take these two guys right here, 5 is x2, 3 is y2. And then we just go to what I just did, right? y2 minus y1 is 3 minus 4, x2 minus x1, 5 minus 0. So that's how we do that. Okay, so the same exact points. Find the y-intercept of the line that includes the points 0, 4, and 5, 3. Okay, so we just did this with the slope. That's what you have to find first when you get a question for y-intercept. So slope is negative 1/5. Okay. Now to find the y-intercept, all we're going to do is plug in. So we need to know the formula y equals mx plus b. You need to be familiar with that, right? And m is slope. Y equals negative 1/5 x plus b, and we'll just plug in 0, 4. Okay, right, so that's right here. 0, 4. Okay. So then what we would have is 4 equals negative 1/5 x sorry, not x. Negative 1/5. Right, so x is 0, right? Right there. X is 0. Negative 1/5 times 0 plus b. Okay, and then if we kind of pull that down a little further, 4 equals 0 plus b, or 4 equals b, and then finally we have our answer right there. So it's definitely drawn out, one of the more complicated questions, but it's true for a lot of this level 4 stuff. It's a little bit harder. You're definitely capable of doing it. You just need to know slope and then how to plug in these guys, right? And you could just as easily, whether you plugged in 0, 4, or 5, 3, wouldn't matter. You would still get b equals 4. Okay, let's see here. Brad is n years old. Okay, so there's n. Matt is 5 years younger than Brad. So Brad equals n. Matt. So it says Matt is 5 years younger. Okay, so he's going to be n minus 5. And then we also have Kevin. And it says Kevin, Matt is 5 years younger than Brad and 3 years older than Kevin. So Matt's 3 years older than Kevin, which means that Kevin is 8 years younger than Brad, or 3 less than Matt, right? So then we have n plus n minus 5 plus n minus 8. That's our total. So we have 3 n's right here. 3 n's. And then we have minus 5 and minus 8. So that 5 and 8 is 13. There's our total. 3n minus 13. Answer choice A. That's how we do that. Okay, 1/3 plus 1/4 k equals 1. What is k? Okay, so the first thing, right, so we've got this first, right? And we need a common denominator, which will be 12. Okay. So common denominator just kind of keeps showing up, doesn't it? Right? So 1/3 is the same as 4/12, right? If I just multiply the numerator and the denominator, the top and the bottom, by 4 each, 1/3 becomes 4/12 plus 1/4. If we multiply, again, we want the denominators to be the same. Just multiplied by 3 on the top and bottom. That got us 3/12. Total goes to 7/12. If what I just did there with common denominator is confusing, we did a bunch of that on the level 1 practice test, and there's videos that associate with that too. Definitely want to know that because common denominator keeps showing up when we're doing fraction stuff. Okay, so now we have 1/3 k plus 1/4 k equals 1. So now we have 7/12 k equals 1. Okay, and then how do we get, now we need to get rid of this 7/12 right here, right? So we just multiply by the reciprocal, right? Which in this case would be 12/7. Okay, and that will cross the stuff out, so we just have k by itself, and 1 times 12/7 is just 12/7, right there. Okay, no problem. Moving on. All right, and then we have, looks like 2 variables here. So it says if x is 12 and y equals 1/2 x, what is the value of xy divided by 2? Okay, so the big question here is where we have y equals 1/2 x, right? And really all we're doing is plugging in. So y is 1/2 x, and it says here x is 12, right? So we're just going to plug in the 12 for x. And 1/2 times 12 is 6. Okay, so now we know that y equals 6. So, okay, so we know x is 12, y is 6, and then they want to know xy divided by 2. Okay, so again, 12 is x, 6 is y, divided by 2. 12 times 6 is 72, divided by 2. And 72 divided by 2 is 36. So that's answer choice A. So that's how we do that. That's just plugging in, substituting kind of stuff. Okay, these are always fun. Solve for A in terms of B. So like that phrase in and of itself throws a lot of people. right? Solve for A in terms of B. When do you ever hear anybody talk like that? Never. Okay, except right now. And so all that means is that your answer should be, and all of the answer choices are, something like A equals B plus a number, something. Okay, so what it means is we want to get all of the A's over on the left side of the screen, and everything else on, left side of the equation, and everything else on the right side of the equation. Okay, so first thing here as we look at this, let's add 2A to both sides. Okay, so now there's no A's on the right side of the screen, right? So we'll go 6A plus 8B plus 7 equals minus 4B minus 5. Okay, and then to get rid of all this stuff, we're just going to do this all in one big swoop. Hopefully it will make sense. Subtract 8B, because we just want that A by itself, right? Subtract 7. Subtract 8B. Subtract 7. (6A) equals negative 12B, right? Negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. And negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. Okay, now it's starting to look a little more manageable, right? Okay. Divide by 6, just to get that A by itself. Divide by 6. A. Okay, so then we have this right, we're going to go divide those. We're going to divide these. Okay, and then we'll be done. So negative 12B divided by 6 is negative 2B. And negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. That's our final answer. A equals negative 2B minus 2. There it is, answer choice A. Okay, that's all I got to do for that one. All right, so it's a bunch of math. None of the math is actually all that tough. We just need to, take it step by step and end up with an answer with A equals, here, negative 2B minus 2. All right, right triangle tells us ABC. One of the angles measures 53. How many degrees are the other two? All right, so the fact that it says right triangle means 90. Okay, so we know 90. They told us one is 53. And what's the third one? We need to know that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees when we add up the three angles. So we just have 90 plus 53 plus who knows, x equals 180. Okay, and so 90 plus 53 is 143. Plus x equals 180, and then if I subtract 143 from each side, I will get 37. Okay, so 37 took a little math, 90, a little easier to figure out. So 90 and 37. So there we go. We can see answer choice D, and that's all we need. And moving on. All right, we got 4 more. Okay, so it says line AE. There's A, there's E. So this whole thing is going to be 25. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and put these others in here. There's B, there's C, there's D. BD is 17. Okay, so from B to D. 17, we'll try and name it. And then it says CD right here is 12. Okay, and then it says AB is CD. Sorry, I did that wrong. CD is 5. Sorry, getting to the point where I can't even read anymore. Hopefully that is readable. So CD is 5, AB equals CD. So AB is also 5. And I got a lot of stuff on the screen now. And then they want to know how much is DE. Okay, so we have all these figured out, right? So from B to D was 17 right here, yeah? That was BD. AB is 5. So we've got 17 and 5, which adds up to 22, equals AD. Right? AD equals 22. Right? That's just adding this guy and that guy. Right? AD is 22. All that's left is DE. The total is 25. So we just take 25 minus 22, and we end up with 3. Alrighty. We're closing in, guys. 3 left. Okay, x squared equals x plus 6. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to set these kind of equations up where everything is on the left side and it equals 0, and then we can solve for it, right? So if I subtract, so I start off, I've got x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. And all I did there was I subtracted x and I subtracted 6 so that there would be nothing on the right side. And then we need to set up factoring. Remember when we were talking about factoring? How important this was going to be? Maybe that was level 3 quiz test. I start to confuse them after a while. X. Either way, factoring shows up in more than one question. X and X. Okay, and so what we need is to have the two numbers that will be there and there to multiply to -6 and add up to -1. Okay, so how do we do that? We will go, right, if we look at different numbers, so if we have like 3 and -2, right, so that would multiply to -6, right, but 3 minus 2 is 1, so that wouldn't work, right? But what about -3 and 2, right? So we'll say that one isn't going to work out, but what about like that? Right, so again, we want something that multiplies to -6, and we have these two numbers adding up to -1. So let's go ahead and plug this in and see what happens. So x times x is x squared. X times 2, 2x, right? Then we'll go -3 times x. Looks good. -3 times 2 is the last thing. That's -6. Equals 0. So we have x squared plus 2x, x squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, do we got all that right? That's the same thing we have up here. Okay, so good. So we did it right. Okay, so this is the one we like. I've written all over the place now. Of x minus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, and so the solutions, what we're trying to do here is have what number right here, what number does x have to be so that we have 0 in that first set of parentheses there, right? And so if x was 3, right, 3 minus 3 is 0, that would make that 0. And then whatever was over here, we wouldn't care about, because 0 times anything is 0. That would work, right? And then the second one is what plus 2 equals 0? And the answer there is -2, right? And so our two answers are 3 and -2 work for the solution. So if you're not used to doing this, like that can seem quite complicated and requires, quite a bit of practice. Videos on quadratic equations. This is one of the toughest questions on the Asvab, but you will get it. So videos on the quadratic equations where you watch people go through a few more, that was useful. And the app where you get your own practice, very important. Okay, surface area. Okay, surface area of a rectangular solid. So so what we should be seeing here is, and this is just a formula you have to know. Again, we're at the end of level 4. So I would certainly be making sure that I was familiar with the stuff like on level 2, level 3, level 1 first, before I was worrying about surface area formulas, right? But it is on the test. You will probably see a question with surface area. And so for a rectangular solid, that's the formula that you need to know. Okay, so in this question they say length is 7, width is 5, height is 8, and then we just got to sort of just plug those numbers in. So we would have 2 times 7 times 5 plus, right, and that's just because length is 7, width is 5, right? And I just plug those into that right there. Okay, 2 times 7 times 5 plus 2 times 5 times 8 plus 2 times 7 times 8. Okay, all we're doing is just plugging stuff in from what we were given up top. And if we multiply all the stuff out, 7 times 5 is 35, times 2 is 70, 5 times 8 is 40, times 2 is 80, 7 times 8 is 56, times 2 is 112. Okay, and if you add those three together, we end up with 262. So we do have a video that goes over everything you need to know about surface area as well as volume. So again, it is on the test. It represents a very small percentage of the test. If your goal is to get the perfect score, I would say definitely go ahead and do this. But again, get the low-hanging fruit first. At least do that, right? And then you have a score that is good and it'll get you where you're trying to go. If you really want to go after everything, there's formulas to know about surface area and volume. And last but not least, systems of equations. Okay. So it says find the value of x. So we have 3x plus y equals 9, x minus 2y equals -3. Okay, so you do have a little bit of choice about how you go about this. In this one, what I would be doing is when I see 3x plus y is 9, right? So if you subtract 3x from both sides, then we can get y by itself, right? And just say y is -3x plus 9. Okay, and then if we take that second equation, we can just plug in that y. So then we would have x minus 2 times -3x plus 9. equals -3, right? That's all I did. I took this second formula and plugged in that. Okay, and then we would go x minus 2 times -3x is -6x. 2 times 9 is 18. Okay, so, and then we would have x plus 6x. So we just, right, 2 negatives makes a positive there. I'll subtract 18 from both sides. I'll go ahead and write it out. 6x plus, sorry, 7x plus 18 is -3. All right, then I got to get rid of that 18. So I subtract 18 from both sides. So then I just have that 7x. And again, I subtracted 18, right? So -3 minus -18 is -21. Okay, divide each side by 7. And go over here because I'm running out of room. -21 divided by 7 is -3. There's your answer. Okay, and then you can go back and plug it in and make sure that it works if you want to. So again, those are tricky. They do show up. So as you're kind of getting to the end of these level 4s, the math I know is getting harder. The nature of it is, so especially when you get into like surface area and the system of equations type stuff, I think it's worth studying for. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying have it be last on the list. So within these 4 practice tests, we've had 84 questions. So system of equations and surface area were 2 of them, right? Those were the last 2. I would go in order. First is level 1. Is if I didn't have at least 80% correct on level 1, I'd be focusing in on those, watching the videos, getting into the app, trying to master topics in the app, and the app makes it clear what that means. And then move on. So I'd be going in that order. Definitely not worrying about this if I'm still struggling with stuff on level 2. Okay, so that gets us to the end of the level 4 practice test. I thank you guys for hanging in there with me. And if you have any questions on any of the stuff that we did, please let me know in the comments, and we will do our best to answer it and clarify things for you. Thanks.